Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. We are back once again for Thoughts and Coffee, and I cannot wait to share with you who is going to be our guest today. Hope you guys are having a great week so far. I am having a great week. We are working on some amazing things over here at Let's Talk Supply Chain that I cannot wait to share with you. But first, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in our world this week. So the episode that we released yesterday is with Allison Cusack of Cusack & Co. And I loved this episode. She is a shipping maritime lawyer out of Australia, Melbourne, Australia. She's one of my great friends. And she's doing some amazing things in the cargo insurance area, contracting area. So if you want to learn more about what she's doing, make sure to go and check out this episode. It's episode 185, wherever you subscribe to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast, or you can find it on the podcast page over at letstalksupplychain.com. And here we also have a category filter. So remember, if you have a challenge and you're looking for a supply chain solution, go here. We've got lots for you to choose from, and you'll be able to find an episode based on the topic that you're looking to find out more about. All right, next up is our upcoming events. So I am going to be kicking off with the keynote at the Demand Driven Technologies Global Conference on March 24th. I'm going to be kicking that off with Eric, and we're going to be talking about the history of demand driven. And we're going to be going through all of the decades, and it's going to be amazing. So hopefully you can join us there. And then this Thursday, I am talking to Cody and Brandon, and we are talking about uncovering the benefits of collaborative robots. And let me tell you, we are going to have a mixologist at the end of this presentation. So you're not going to want to miss this. And hopefully we'll see you there for a bit of a mixology and have a drink together after this session. So hopefully we'll see you there. You can actually catch up on all of our events over on the Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page. We've got all the registration links there as well if you want to join us. Plus, we've got a mini series with Apex Logistics happening this month. I don't know if you've checked it out yet. The first episode was around Apex Cares, and they were talking about all the initiatives that they have in place, how they're working with Habitat for Humanity and all sorts of different companies to really put goodwill into the industry, as well as create a sustainable future as well. The second episode, which is episode 184, I was talking to Sanya. If you remember, Sanya was on our Woman in Supply Chain series. And this episode is about how they deliver passion through their people. And we talk all about how the ins and outs of hiring and retention, Apex's people-led approach, and why a motivated, dedicated, and passionate workforce is key to success. So that's a little bit about what's happening over at Let's Talk Supply Chain. I also want to do a big thank you to IBM and Supply Chain Digital. I was top 21 out of 100 women in supply chain on their list that came out on International Women's Show. And then a big thank you over to Una as well, because I was one of the top 10 influencers to watch in supply chain right now. So thank you so much to everybody for making that happen. And now, without further ado, we are going to bring up Rhonda. Hello, Rhonda. Good morning.
Morning, everyone. Good morning.
How are you?
Doing pretty well here with the time change. So adjusting the schedule and trying to figure out everybody's time commitments.
I know the time change has been crazy. It's affected everybody differently. It affected me as well, but because I am tired today. I know that people are having some trouble sleeping right now, but it's all good. All good. Why don't you give an introduction to everybody who's watching?
So I am lucky to have a wonderful position here at Global Trans. I'm the Director of Fitness and Wellness, and I came here from Washington, D.C. in 2017, and I was hired on as a vendor when they built this lovely gym that I get to run. And the partnership went so well that they actually created the position for me so I could get into some behavioral counseling and work with our on-site clinic to address any health issues that our team has through biometric screening and what have you. So it's been an amazing experience. I'm
Awesome.
very lucky.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad to have you here, and it looks like we're having a bit of trouble on our Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page. So we're actually not going live there right now. And I'm just checking my personal page, and we're not going live there either. So we are having all sorts of issues, but that's okay, because we do have some people over on YouTube, etc., that are watching. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this episode and we will repost it so that everybody can see it. All right.
Awesome.
So what are we talking about first? We're talking about the question of the week. So the question of the week is, what's the biggest obstacle you have faced in your career and how did you overcome it? Rhonda, I'm going to start with you. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been, this career has been so long. So where do you even start?
Right. I think for me, I really put some thought into this. And for me, it was kind of being disregarded by a boss, someone I reported to, who did not see me as a valued person. And luckily, I had a team that encouraged me to not let that change my momentum, to show up as my best self and to go above and beyond. And long story short, I found out 2 years into the position that this gentleman was having some personal struggles. So, and he had a hard time with emotional regulation and trying to separate, letting his anxiety and issues impact me in particular, because I was doing a startup at a university. So that was really challenging. And I'm so glad that I didn't throw in the towel, because it just made me more resilient. It also taught me empathy and compassion, and you learn that, not everybody's perfect. And even though we have a perception maybe that we think someone has it all together, and when you really get to know them on a personal level, you see that we're all in similar challenges, and just, having some compassion and just try not to let the negative vibes impact your mojo. So
yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly what we're not doing here this morning. Davin has messaged me on LinkedIn. I'm getting all sorts of messages that we're not live on LinkedIn right now, but that is okay, because we will be posting this afterwards. And thank you so much for sharing that. And this is just a testament to what we can go through and things that can happen. So I think for me, the biggest obstacle and challenge, and I don't think I realized it at the time, was working for family. And, stepping into an industry that I didn't know anything about, stepping into a role that I really wasn't prepared for, being the boss's daughter. And all of the challenges that sort of came with working for my dad's company, I would say was probably the biggest obstacle that I've had to overcome in a variety of different ways, right? There was people that, would say stuff when I was in a meeting. There were people that, I could trust. There was people that I thought I could trust, but couldn't trust. There was times where I was friends with somebody and then they got fired and blamed me or my family or whatever. And, so it was a lot to go through. How I overcame it, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I sort of, put my head down and worked really, really hard to prove that I was, somebody that could be relied on and somebody that was a hard worker. And that's, who I was. I also really had to take some time and learn not only about myself, but also about my family and the people around me and what that looked like. So did I overcome it very well? I don't know. Everybody's probably going to have their opinion. But it was definitely a challenge that I went through.
Wow. I can't even imagine. Yeah, you're saying that, and I could see how, really having self-confidence and some positive self-esteem is going to be critical right? To keep moving forward and not let those biases hinder your work production, which obviously, you know, wasn't a factor. Look at you.
Yeah. Well, it took a long time. Well, actually, I would also say that the biggest obstacle too was speaking in public. So I
Oh,
had a horrible fear of speaking in public. And
mhm.
how I overcame that was I actually hired a talent agent and I went out on auditions. And I was horrible at it. I got thrown out of audition rooms, but because I didn't want a career as an actress, it didn't really matter to me. I just needed to, walk through the threshold of that door into that room
Clever.
and
Mhm.
try it, right? Or stand in front of a video camera and do an audition, like so I put myself in different situations to really be able to overcome that. And I'm still not over it.
Mhm.
I just have new techniques and tools that I can use anyways.
Uh,
So now let's talk about my thoughts and coffee post. So my thoughts and coffee post on Sunday was about everything happens for a reason. And let me tell you a bit about the story behind this, because when I have a show called Blended podcast. If you're not subscribed to it, go and subscribe to it. It's about diversity and inclusion. And I bring
mm,
5 different people from different walks of life together to talk about a topic in diversity and inclusion. For this particular episode, the topic was equality versus diversity. And I had 8 cancellations. Like I had a
oh, wow.
cancellation the Tuesday before, the Wednesday before, the Thursday before, the Sunday before, the Monday morning of. And these were all people that I had originally scheduled. And then there were some replacement people that couldn't make it.
Mm,
And then I had somebody not show up. And we did the episode anyway. Like I went back and forth that morning. I was like, maybe I should give it more time. We don't have to do it today. But I was like, no, no, no. Everything happens for a reason. Let's see
mhm.
what happens. And so we came on the call, and one of the ladies, Sabrina Booker, she was able to get a friend of hers who is a big advocate of this topic. And so we ended up with 4 people, and it was an amazing, amazing episode. And it was kind of one of those moments where I sat back and I was like, everything happens for a reason.
Mm.
There is a reason for this. And the reason is that we were all meant to come together to talk about this topic. So what do you think about everything happens for a reason? Do you believe it? Do you not believe it? Do you sometimes believe it?
I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, and a lot of that is your perception, right? And how you take a situation such as you have this lineup all planned and then everyone cancels on you. Okay,
Mhm.
how can you on the fly readjust and make it happen anyway? And sometimes in the moment we don't realize that it's actually to our advantage and the outcome is going to be much more than we had maybe anticipated.
Mhm.
And I positive energy feeds positive energy, so just keep moving forward. And how you react in the moment is going to prepare you for things to come in the future. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely. You know what I thought
it's
was
all perception.
interesting was that we have how many people? 16%, which was about, I think, just under 100 people said sometimes everything
Hmm.
happens for a reason. And Larry made a comment about how can you sometimes think that everything happens for a reason. And so my question to everybody who voted, and we had a lot of votes. I mean, we had 623 votes on this. So people obviously
Huh.
love this question and are quite not divided. I mean, there's a lot of people that said absolutely. But my question to the people that said sometimes or voted sometimes is, what do you mean by that? Because I would love
Mm.
to know what your thought process is behind the sometimes. And
Hmm.
so if any of you that are watching voted, go back to the post and then leave a comment, because I'd love to hear from you on that. And I'm sure Larry is dying to find out why some people put sometimes
I
anyway.
wonder maybe if people are thinking about external factors that are outside of their control, maybe as
Maybe.
maybe
Yeah.
like
Yeah, no, no, no,
people
that's
canceling.
That's yeah, exactly. That's
You
such
did
a
all
good
your
point.
work and then
That is such a good point. All right. So we are going to get to the articles that we're talking about today. So the first article, and the question that I want to ask everybody about this article is, what challenges are you facing in the chaos that we're seeing in global shipping? Now, one of the reasons why I picked this article is because it's from the New York Times, which I thought was amazing. You know, supply chain is really being pushed to the forefront, especially in a a publisher like the New York Times.
Mm,
And this article I thought was interesting for a number of reasons. And if you look through this article, it's not a long article, but it goes through a lot of different things. They talk about how there's empty containers sitting across the globe right now.
mhm,
Some were moved. Some were moving masks at the beginning of the pandemic into regions where they are not servicing at the moment because they're concentrating on some of the more popular
mhm.
routes from China into North America. And there's containers actually in wrong places, which I thought was very interesting. And how are they going to fix that? And what are they going to do? The other thing that I thought was interesting was they're talking about there's a lot of electronics manufacturers in Calcutta, and they're moving a lot of the containers into Mumbai just to get on vessels. And the other thing that I thought was interesting was that stoves and exercise equipment doubled from September to November in the shipping. What do you think about that, Rhonda? I mean, you are very much about physical activity and working out and all that kind of stuff. So,
I can tell you from our perspective here at Global Trans, we have a beautiful gym here, and now we have limited use. And left and right, I was getting messages from my team. Where can I get a treadmill? Where can I get a Precor? And the Peloton was the hot item, and even weights. And so now people, we are encouraging movement while working remotely to stay healthy. And now things also were limited, and then the prices were skyrocketed.
yep.
So even vendors that I work with, that I have connections with, they were even having problems getting products. So anything that I was requesting, it's pretty much any ordering that I've done has been on the back burner. So we're hoping soon, from cleaning products to weights. I mean, weights are triple the cost right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Look at
I,
that. That's a picture of
wow.
some of the vessels in the port of LA and Long Beach. One other thing that I'll mention that they mentioned in this article is that shipping disinfectants went up 6,800%, which, is not surprising, but I
Mhm.
think just that sheer number is astronomical, really. I mean, it's crazy to even think. And you were talking about the prices. So in this article, they do interview one person, and they were talking about how they were paying $2,500 for a 40-foot into California, and now they're paying
Mm.
$6,000 to $7,000. It's right here, actually. He's got factories in China and Southeast Asia, and they make umbrellas for Costco,
Mm.
cotton bags for Walmart, and ceramics for Bed Bath and Beyond. And so, yeah, he said 6 months ago, 2,500, and now he's paying 6 to 7,000. And some of them are even talking about 90 plus days to secure space.
Mm.
But what I thought
Wow.
was really, really interesting about this article is they made reference to Jenga. So they were talking about how you put your container on a vessel, right? And it's destined for, let's say, the port of LA. Well, you make a change and you send it into the port of Oakland. All of those containers have been put onto that vessel in a Jenga-like format, right? And so to be able to get your container off at the port of Oakland just doesn't work because they have to rejig it, and it's like Jenga all over again.
I've seen some live shots of the port, and it just looks like a runway in the air, so to speak, of people just
Wow.
circling around.
I was going to save this till later, but since you
Oh,
brought it up, let's take a look at marinetraffic.com, because
wow.
this is all the vessels. And
Wow.
so as you can see right here is, where is it? So LA and Long Beach are here. And then you've got San Francisco a little bit above it. But look at that. I mean, it's incredible. And then you're also seeing, I'm guessing, a lot of
Wow.
vessels being diverted to Houston and Louisiana. And then if I bring it up just a little bit, we're looking at Vancouver, and this is Vancouver as well. So these are all the containers coming in and out of that port as well.
Wow.
So really, really crazy to see, but I wanted to show
Huge.
everybody what that looks like. And we're going to be putting that article in the comments as well, or sorry, that
Wow.
link into the comments as well, so that you can go and check that out. All right. So the second article that I want to talk about is from Forbes. And it's the top business trends shaping a post-COVID-19 environment. And one of the reasons why I picked this article as well is because a lot of it talks about supply chain, but then we talk about the future of work and the flexibility in talent. So my question to the audience is, what changes have you made to your supply chain based on some of the things that they're, talking about in this article? So what did you think of this article when you first saw it?
Oh, I felt, life as we know it it's definitely different. Our working environment is changed permanently, and those folks that recognize this and are implementing different methods to work around the nuances of how to keep employees engaged, how to prevent burnout, stress, mental health issues, which are on the rise, like really dialing into that and having a plan in place so that we communicate with our customers, our vendors in a professional manner, and we don't let the stress of what's happening and what's going to continue to happen impact our job capabilities. And
so true.
And interesting enough, really investing in training and development, health and well-being of our employees, as well as having that flexible schedule for folks. I know that was really important here, particularly with moms and dads with kids at home. The challenges are unfounded. So really finding ways to accommodate the needs of our team is really critical, and it's going to continue.
Absolutely. Some of the things that I took away from this article was they were talking about supply chain flexibility. Resilience and flexibility needs to increase, and through that they're increasing inventory, which means that they're creating their own backup plans. So prior to COVID, it was all just in time, et cetera, et cetera. Now they're creating their own backup plans, and that's what they're saying is really going to drive the future of supply chain and businesses right now. They're also talking about digital capabilities. So in manufacturing, they're saying that the key to this in manufacturing is scaling up and integrating small tests, because manufacturing is, they're a sector of supply chain that are struggling with digitalization. That word gets me every time. I don't know about you, but it totally gets me. And they're struggling with it in a few different capacities. And so they're saying the key to manufacturing really getting into the digital age is around that small testing environment. And then they were talking about the future of work and how companies can work with their employees on reskilling. Because by 2030, there's going to be an increase of 50% in tech skills that are going to be required. Right. And how many people right now in the job, the workforce, right, whether it's in the general workforce or whether we're talking about supply chain specific, really has that tech background. So if you're thinking about looking at different skills, and I know that I've said this before, but you want to go and take a look at tech. And then you ask me, well, what part of tech? I can't really tell you that because I don't have a crystal ball, but at the same time, what you want to learn about. It's got to be something that you're interested in and not just doing it just to do it, right?
And we see that here as well. So our team is constantly talking about, what are your interests? What are your career path desires for the future? And we brought a lot of people into the technology department and, thinking ahead, like where's the need, and constantly reinventing how we're conducting business and how we're communicating, how visible we are, our transparency. We just rolled out another app that our partners can use. So there's lots of opportunities, and it's nice to see when you're in a position in a culture that promotes work from within, as well as, you know, when you love what you do, recruiting people to be on your team. So lots of opportunities, for sure.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about this article is they talked about how women have been impacted by the pandemic. They give a lot of different stats. And so if you're interested in some of that information, definitely go and check out that article. We're going to have that in the comments. AJ, I've noticed that we haven't put the articles in the comments yet. So if we could just do that, that would be great. And now we're going into our third article. So this one, so we're going from the New York Times to the LA Times. And I love it because, again, we are going mainstream, and it's finally time to let the world know what we are dealing with, right? So a lot of the times, right, you're just waiting for your product and you don't know why it's taking so long. And now somebody like the LA Times is really breaking it down for you and giving you an idea of what that looks like. Now, the reason why I picked this article was, and I want to ask the audience that question, when do you see the disruptions ending? Because both articles, one article, the New York Times article talks about it ending by the end of the year. This LA Times article says that they're going to be back to somewhat normal in a couple of months. And when I say they, I'm talking about the brands that the LA Times talks about in this article. And they talk about a lot of brands.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a bit of an example. The CEO of Crocs is saying that they're not meeting anybody's expectations right now, which I thought was interesting. But they're also saying that it's not an issue with production capacity. It's a logistics issue, which again are two different parts of the supply chain, right? Production is the manufacturing, logistics is that middle mile. And that's where we're seeing a lot of those disruptions. Another stat that I thought was interesting from this one, Steve Madden's sales are expected to be down by $30 million in the first quarter.
Yeah, I was checking out the fitness equipment, the same thing, Nautilus, which I've worked with that company. You know, they're rolling out a new treadmill, new Bowflex machine, and there's some delays there. And, you know, as you mentioned, different shoe companies that are important for, you know, those folks at home trying to keep active. It's just planning is key. And I don't know, you know, there's a lot of talk about how to kind of tap into human behavior going forward. And I don't think that anybody really knows what that's going to look like.
Well, my question to you, because you deal with people on a day-to-day basis, you know, these disruptions have got to be affecting everybody. I would assume differently, right? Because we all absorb stress or, you know, the pressure of all of this, especially working for a logistics company. What are you seeing from people? How are you helping them? What are, you know, 3 things that maybe you can tell our audience to really focus on while we go through all of these disruptions and have that kind of pressure on our shoulders?
We've definitely seen an intake in anxiety and stress for sure. We do regular polling with our team, and the interesting thing was throughout the year, immediately when we began remote work, we had monthly, weekly check-ins with team members. And on my side, it was definitely talking about practicing self-care. We dived into weekly meditation with our team and really encouraging our team to seek medical assistance. And they actually heeded our advice. So that was heartwarming to see. And again, just making that connection. Often we'll just pick up the phone just to check in with somebody because we don't have that day-to-day interaction, and really checking in on those people that we know tend to be less engaged, just to check out their mental health, and, you know, incentives through the mail and like just random gifts to show our appreciation. But, you know, going forward, it's definitely continuing to keep engaged, encouraging movement. We do monthly challenges for physical, mental, environmental well-being, and finding out what they need is key. So surveying your team, understanding what they would like moving forward, whether it's a hybrid model, returning back to the office, and letting them feel they have a voice.
Yes. Yeah,
That's
I
been
love
key
that.
for us.
I read that somewhere, actually. I don't know if you posted it or I was reading an article about that, about how important it is to have your employees be heard and be part of the solution in regards to return to work. Actually, no, I think we were talking about this last week with Audrey.
Mm,
Whether people would want to go back to work full time, whether they're looking for a hybrid model,
mhm.
and I think there's a lot of divide. I think people are, kind of all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Some want to work from home permanently.
Mhm.
Some want the hybrid because they want to be back in the office and they really want to have that human connection. So I think it's really important. And I think that that's a great point, is to make them a part of their future.
And also, making sure they're productive.
Mhm.
So, you know, having a metrics for measuring that. And our CFO, Bob Farrell, he's dialed into that and he's committed to, making this work for everyone.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, that's it for today. Rhonda, I really appreciate you hanging in with us today.
Oh.
I know that we did not go live on LinkedIn, but that's okay because we are going to repost this so that everybody can watch it. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much for sharing all of your amazing wisdom. Go and follow Rhonda on LinkedIn. AJ is going to put that link into the comments as well, so you can go in and follow her. So everybody have an amazing week ahead. And Rhonda, thank you again for joining us.
Appreciate you, Sarah.